What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. My name is Nash, and this is our third video on Excel for Analysts. And today we're going to be covering text to columns. So we're going to be using the function as well as a couple formulas I want to show you that you can add onto that function to make things a lot easier. So let's go ahead and get started here. I'm going to go ahead and minimize this, and I'll put it over here so it's not in the way of anything. Okay. All right. So we have our example here. Let me know if I should upload this somewhere so you guys can use this or anything like that. So what we have here is we have we're gonna be using names, right? Because this is the most common text you're gonna find in data. Might be people's names, customer names, things like that. So these are different formats here that you can see here. Let me go ahead and fix this. Why is there two of the same here? All right. All right, cool. So these are different formats, right? Let's say you get a client name list, right? And their names are by last name, first name, right? Now, what you're trying to do is separate the two. What a lot of people will do is they'll individually type in the last name and then the first name, and then they will do it for, let's say you have like thousands of lines of data. They will take all day to do that. I want to show you a simple trick that you can use. What you're going to do is, before you even do the trick, you want to make sure that you have at least one free column up here, okay? Yeah, column. You can, if you don't have any, if let's say you happen to have a bunch of text in here, right? All you have to do is select on this column that's right next to the data that you're trying to separate, right click and click insert. That's going to insert a column here, okay? Do Control Z to get rid of that. So make sure you have that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this. Let's label this name. Okay, name. I'm going to go ahead and select the entire column. I'm going to go to data. I'm going to go to text to columns. This is the function here. It's under data. Boom, there you go. So for the most part, if you've never used it before, it's going to be on fixed width. You don't want to do that. You want to go to delimited. This is going to allow you to use characters, like unique characters to separate the text, right? If you look on here, the only unique thing between these two is a comma, right? So that's what we're going to be using. So this allows you to use things such as commas, tabs, stars, anything really. Now I'm going to go ahead and you can even see like a little preview here of how it's going to look, right? So you can see if it hits the comma, it separates to the next text. It puts it in a different column, which is what we're going to see here. I'm going to go ahead and hit next. Now, this is where we're going to be able to select what's called the delimiter, right? So in this example, we have a comma. So make sure you select that. And we're going to go ahead and hit next. And you're going to go ahead and select the data format. So for this example, we have text. Let's go ahead and pick text. So this is going to allow you to format. So sometimes when you have dates and things like that, you don't want it formatted as text, right? Because it's a date. So just make sure that you pick the right format here. So I have text. We'll go ahead and hit finish. There we go. Now it separates the first name or the last name and the first name, right? So now we have these two, in two different columns. So call this first. You can even, change the labels and things like that, the headers. So last, okay? I make this bold as well. Okay. So that's the easiest way to do this, like the super easy way to do this, right? Now, another cool thing is sometimes you might have, let's do that on a different example. So what we just did is we separated text using what's called a delimiter, which is essentially a unique, unique character, right, that you can choose to be the thing that's going to separate the text, right? If the formula or the function hits that character, for this was a comma, it's going to push it to the next cell. So one thing you do want to avoid is, let's say, let's undo all this, okay? Let's say we had some more text over here, right? And now we're trying to use this formula here, okay? Without even creating another column here. Let's go to same thing, delimited, next, comma, next, text, finish. We're going to get hit with this little warning message. It says, there's already data here. Do you want to replace it? So this means that there's no free space, right? There's no free cell here for the Nash to go in. So it's saying there's already data there. Do you want to replace it? You have no other option but to replace it. So be careful when you do this and you just hit OK. It's going to replace everything that's in this column here if you have a whole bunch of data. So if I hit OK, as you can see, it's going to get rid of that over here, right? So we don't have that data. You've lost it. So you want to, be careful when you're doing that. Now, another example I want to show you here is going to be using, let's see, what is this one? So this one, let's add a space here, using a space. just to show you the different default things that you have. So if you had a space, it's going to be the same process: data, text to columns, delimited, that, and we're going to deselect comma and hit space. So as soon as it hits a space, it's going to go ahead and make sure to select text, finish. There you go. Now you might run into a problem where you might have an extra space here, right? Someone mistyped the data. There's an extra space in there. Let's see what happens if you use the function. Do the same thing here. It's the same thing, nothing different. Using a space. You can see on the preview here, this is already separated by space, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and hit text, so we can just see this over here. Now you can see that for Terry, they are the name is divided into 3 different cells. This is because there was a space in here, so it's not only going to count the first space, it's going to count every little space that's in there. If there's a space, it's going to separate that into a different column. So that's kind of like the disadvantage when it comes to this. You kind of like have to make sure that your data is okay. First, it does not have a bunch of spaces or a bunch of commas between where they should not be. So that's one tip that I want to give you on that as well. Now let's say we had something like let's use a star here as let's say the names are separated, the first and last name is separated by a star, right? What you can do, we're going to do the same thing. Select the entire column, text to columns, go to delimited, next. Now we don't have an option for a star here, right? So you're going to go ahead and click other, and you're going to actually type in the star here. So I'm going to hit the star on my keyboard and go ahead and hit next, text, and finish. There we go. This is separated by a star. As you can see, even though we had a space here, we did not use the space as a delimiter, so it didn't do anything to it, right? It just picked up on the first star that it saw and separated that. There were no additional stars, so it did not put it in 3 different columns, okay? All right, so the next thing I want to show you guys is going to be the left and right formula. So these are going to allow you to pull a specified amount of characters and put them in a different cell. You see what I'm talking about here with this example. So we're going to be using this right here. So let's say we wanted to pull the first name, right? Let's start with the last name. So I'm just going to label this last. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the right formula. So the right formula is going to count from the right to the left. So starting with the letter O, it's going to count all the way to the left, right? So we have to specify the number of characters we want it to count. So since Theo has 4 characters, right? If you had a space in there, that would count as a character as well. So we have Theo here. This is 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're gonna use 4 to to pull Theo from Nash Theo. So I'm gonna go ahead and type in right, and I'm gonna select the entire cell, comma. I'm gonna put in 4, and I'm gonna close this. As you can see, it picked up the first 4 characters from the right. Let me show you what happens if I had a space in between T, H, and E. Now this is just gonna pick E, O, and then the space because it counts as a character as well. So you want to make sure that you don't have a bunch of spaces in here because the formula is not gonna work really well. I'll go ahead and close this. Now let's say we wanted to pick up the first name, right? So first name. Now, instead of using the right formula, we want to use the left formula because if you use the right formula, it's going to count from the O. But the thing is, you're only trying to pick up the first name here, which is Nash. So you don't want to go from the right because it's going to pick everything else on the right until you get to the last, to N, right? So instead of using the right formula, use the left formula because it's going to allow you to count from left to right. So I'm going to go ahead and do equal sign, left. Now I'm going to go ahead and select this column, comma. Now you're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, put in 4, close parentheses. There you go. Now we have our first name, right? So that's how easy it is to use those 2 formulas. Now, if you had, so the only thing I don't like about these formulas is they're so specific, right? I mean, there's other ways, advanced ways of making them, kind of like account for, spaces and maybe you see here one of the problems here. So I'm going to drag down this formula. So drag it down, go to the right till you get this little cross. Drag this down. It's just going to copy the formula down. So now as you can see here, the problem we're running into, if we had a lot of data here, you just like copy the formula down, is that not every last name has 4 characters, right? So this is saying 4, so it's picking up the first 4. Bob has 3 characters. Now if we go to Y, then you see that, this is the 4th one. So it's picking up Y and then Bob, right? So this, if you change this to 3, picks up Bob. So this formula doesn't really work if you are focusing on, if you have a lot of data that is different, obviously, that has a different amount of characters. It doesn't really work, but it is something that you can use to help you. So a good example that you would use this is, let's say, let's give him a initial here. So if everyone had an initial, right? So let's say we were trying to, separate last name, first name, initial in different columns. So let's say we do last. Actually, before we do that, I'm going to select the column. I'm going to go to data, text to columns, delimited. Next, I'm going to select comma because that is our delimited that we have here. Next, text, finish. All right. So as you can see, we have last name here. So last, first. Well, let's not even label that because it's gonna actually, yeah, we could do this is first name. So first. Now I want to put the initial over here, so I'm gonna put middle. So this is where the formula would work really for if you had a lot of data. If everyone has an initial on their first name, so you can easily do use the right formula because you want to count from the right side, right? I'm gonna select this cell with the name that's attached to the initial, comma. I'm gonna hit 1, close the parenthesis. Boom. Now it picked up the S. Now you can drag down the formula. There we go. It picks up the first character. So if someone has an initial that's just one character, then you're good. All right. One thing I want to show you is also if we had something like, so if we had an extra space over here and we picked up, let's do, we're going to do from, actually, let's add the space over here. So space, I'll fix this over here. All right. So if I was going to do left, and pick up this, and let's pick up so Terry's 1 2 3 4 5, so 5. So I just picked up 5, and I see that's gonna go to R because it's counting the space as the first character, right? So it's 1 the space, then 2 starting with T, going all the way up. So spaces are really important when it comes to these formulas. They space counts as a character, so you want to make sure that you're not messing that up. So I'll go ahead and close this out. You can see that it picks up the entire thing because it is 5 characters counting from T all the way to Y. Okay, so that is how you can use these two formulas. And the last thing I want to show you guys is going to be if you have when you're working with data, you're going to find things like this, right? Let's say they're using a comma to separate the last and the first name. Sometimes they'll put like a bunch of commas on there, like why? So I want to show you how you can use the text to columns and try to not have to do twice the work, right? So I'm going to go ahead and select this, do the same thing we've been doing, data, text to columns. I'm going to go to delimited. Next, select comma. Now what I'm going to do is you want to make sure that treat consecutive delimiters as 1. So if you have something that is repeated, like our comma here that we're looking at, there's like 4 of them, right? So instead of separating these things into empty cells, you want to make sure that it counts as 1. So if there's a duplicate, if it's a bunch of stars, like, make sure this is going to make sure that it counts as 1. We'll go ahead and hit next, text, finish. There we go. So now we don't have a bunch of extra space. I want to show you what happens if you don't do that. I'm going to go to text to columns, do the same thing here. I'm just going to deselect treat consecutive delimiters as 1. Next, text. There you go. It's going to ask me because it's trying to put data on this here. I'm just going to hit OK. There you go. So now you have a bunch of like spaces here in between because it's counting every little comma that you had in there as it's going to put that in a different column, right? So you can see here, and you have your first name all the way over here. So that's what that's going to help you. Once again, you go to delimited over here. You want to make sure that you have a treat consecutive delimiters as 1. I always have this selected because I don't want to have to go back and redo the formula if I have a thousand lines of data and one of them has 2 commas and then it messes up. I don't want to have to redo that, or maybe 5 of them have duplicate commas. And I always want to make sure that this is selected. It doesn't affect anything if you don't have any duplicates or consecutive delimiters. So I hit next, text, and there you go. Kind of like that. Easy. All right, so that is pretty much it when it comes to text to columns, and we use the function. We also use the right and left formulas. So there's obviously advanced ways of doing this, and so many ways of doing this, but I believe these two ways are super easy to learn because one is a function. All you gotta do is click a button and know exactly how it works. The next one is just the right and the left formula. Those are pretty easy. I think these are really good to get started. If you're just getting started and you want to work a lot faster, these are really good to tools to have, right? All right, so that is pretty much it for this video. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss future videos. I'm gonna try to upload one every single day so you guys are up to date until we're done with this whole series. But make sure you go ahead and subscribe as well as like the video. Hope you took notes or save the video for later, but I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.